Good morning. Before we begin the various Yizkor prayers, as is traditional on Yizkor Shul, I'll share a few thoughts. As always, there is an appeal this year. The appeal is perhaps more online or through the Shul office, but actually you can give now because it's not yet Yom Kippur. We've supported many worthy causes over the years, particularly one that stands out is Jamie Partnership the last couple of years has allowed us to run a number of very important events for our community in the area of mental health and well-being. And we intend to continue that partnership. But the funds from this year's appeal are going to a very simple cause. As they say, charity begins at home. It's been a very difficult year, particularly with coronavirus. We've had to suddenly shift a lot of our programming and our services to online. We've had to provide a lot of welfare support and pastoral support. And we're running just as many programs and events as we ever were, just in different ways. And whatever happens in the coming year, please God, it should be a better year. There's no question we're going to need innovative programming and resources, and we're going to need help with all of those things. And doing all of that takes up time and costs money. So this year's appeal, very simply, is going to a project in our own community, care projects, welfare projects, educational projects, online presence, all the costs associated with that to ensure that we can continue to provide all those services in these difficult times when income is down for various reasons. So this year's appeal, every penny, will be supporting our own community. Please do give generously. You can do so at the end. We'll give you the details of how to do so online, on the screen, or you can contact the Shul office. And have in mind that this is your pledge for Yom Kippur. They tell the story of the three Jewish mothers who were sitting on a bench, arguing over whose son loves her the most. Number one says, you know, my son loves me so much. He sends me flowers for Shabbos and Yom Tov no matter what, even if he's traveling around the world on business. You call that love, says the second mother. My son calls me every day. That's nothing, says the third mother. My son goes to therapy 5 days a week. And what do you think he talks about? Me, that's all he talks about. We're about to say Yizkor. We'll say it again tomorrow. And Yizkor is a moment, whether it's before Yom Tov, or whether it's on Yom Tov. It's a moment we invite the souls of our departed relatives, particularly those who are saying for our parents, to be with us at one of the high points of the year when we stand before God. It's not a small thing to engage and invite the souls of our dearly departed parents to come and join us. And what's in it for them? What nachas are we giving them? Why would we bring a parent out of Gan Eden, out of paradise, at this time of year, particularly around Yom Kippur, where surely the heavens are shining? It's a great place to be. Why would we want to get them to come and join us instead? So the first question you have to ask is, what is the actual function of a parent in a child's life? And then perhaps we can understand the relevance to this time of year and to our relationship with God. We hear a lot about unconditional love. Children want it, parents claim to give it. So what is unconditional love? Like many concepts, you might kind of get it. You don't really know what it is. Everyone talks about it. Unconditional love, unconditional love. Let's try to put it in practical terms. Unconditional love, there's no point in being an illusion that somehow we experience from our parents and we give to our children, or even a delusion. It has to be something real. We have to actually know what it is. What is it we're receiving and giving? So beyond being a buzzword, something we all want, let's really get to the heart and soul of what unconditional love is. Let's look at the primary purpose of parents in their child's lives. And a friend of mine was telling me that from his own life, there were times, he said, he had to point out to his children that there may be 7 or however many billion people on this planet they could befriend, but they only have one father. And not to turn that unique relationship with the father or the mother into just another 1 in a 7-8 billion relationship. There's a book by Michael Gerber called E-Myth Revisited. And he explains there, what is a true entrepreneur? Somebody who fills all the positions in his company with others, and then he does the things that only he can do. You know, there are deep and Torah true teachings about the relationship between spouses. King Solomon chooses that relationship and that love as a metaphor for our relationship with the Almighty, two halves of a whole. In the final analysis, though, unfortunately, divorce is both a biblical and a real possibility. And it does sometimes happen. But a parent and child cannot divorce. If the most practical implication and message of unconditional love is, I will always be there for you no matter what, then that exists in the parent-child relationship, not even in a spouse relationship. And that's what Yizkor, Yom Kippur, is all about. You know, the joke I told about the son who speaks to the therapist every day about his mother is far from a joke. Parents, particularly Jewish mothers, who are so powerful in our lives, carry some of the deepest blockages and challenges in their child's life, way into adulthood, not just in the negative, but in the positive as well. They say a child who has experienced unconditional love of a mother can conquer the world. Why? Very simple. Because in our lives, the first higher power we come across is our parents. Our paradigm, our understanding, our emotional relationship with God is through the lens of our relationship with our parents. How do we understand God's unconditional love? Avinu Malkeinu, our Father. It's a direct reflection of our own experience of our parents' unconditional love for us. Being able to pray to Him and experience praying to Him is a direct effect of, as children, being able to ask and be answered by our parents. And so on Yom Kippur and at Yizkor, when we ask God to forgive us, to bless us, and to care for us, it's Yizkor with our parents, which is so crucial. I once heard someone say that the goal of a parent in their child's life is to make their position unnecessary. As Mr. Gerber said in his book, to do only the things that only you can do. All the other things, let someone else do it. Teach your children to stand on their own feet. If you did your job as a parent right, you've created a platform that your child shouldn't be dependent upon you. And so the ironic, bittersweet reward of being a parent is when your child flies the nest on their own. And as they fly away, they look back at you and say, don't worry, it's under control. And of course you worry, because you're their parent. And you know they're going to fail, probably more than once. But you also know that hopefully you have instilled in them the ability, the wherewithal to deal with them, to learn and grow from disappointment in a healthy way. How do we do this for our children? And how do we receive it even now from our parents? And from ourselves, dare I say. To understand the one and only thing a parent needs to impart to the child, to experience unconditional love, is what a wise rabbi once told this student. Your job is to connect the person to God and then get out of the way. The hard part is not the first. It's easy to connect the person with God. It's the second part, especially for parents. How do I know they'll be okay? How do I know their relationship with God and themselves will be successful? It's a classical syndrome of Jewish parents, the savior, the Mashiach, Messiah complex, the white knight syndrome. We want to save everyone. We want to protect our children. We support them. We prop them up even into adulthood. The way to overcome that is give them what they need to believe in themselves. So when they say, I've got this, Mum, Dad, don't worry, it's under control. We believe them, we lead them to it. There's an interesting book by a chap called John Bradshaw called Healing the Shame That Binds You. He speaks about the fact we are human beings and not human doings. He says the shame that binds us and stops us from returning, from teshuvah, from growing, is when we see ourselves by our doings rather than our being. And I would suggest that for Yom Kippur and Yizkor, that the experience of a parent's unconditional love for their child is the message of being rather than the message of doing. The message of being is that you are whole, you are complete, you are enough. That's unconditional love. Many parents are afraid. If I tell my child that they're doing sufficiently, that they are sufficient, they are enough, they'll feel they're not doing enough. They'll stop growing, they'll stop doing more. And God forbid, they won't grow up to be successful. What those parents fail to realize is that the message the child hears is that you can do better. And they don't hear you are good enough. And they internalize they have no value as a person. Only what they do, what they accomplish. How often do we hear people talk about their children's accomplishments? And all they hear with that is, I'm not doing enough. And so many times in the Bible, God tells us, he tells Joshua, Israel has sinned. He tells us, even when you've stumbled in iniquity, you can still return. The Talmud tells us, even when the Jewish people sin, they're still called Israel. The Balatanya says, even when we sin, our core being remains faithful to God, even when the sin is committed. And our parents come to us, Yom Kippur, a time of Yizkor, and they shower us with unconditional love. And they tell us, you are enough. You are whole. But you can take a horse to water and you can't make it drink. And so we are also stubborn. There are many things that stop us hearing the call of our parents or of our previous generations, whether it comes from paradise or whether they're right here with us. Maybe they're alive and well. Maybe they're living in a different city. And that unconditional love that tells us, you are enough. We worry too much about what we're doing and not enough about our essential being. Yom Kippur is a time of forgiveness. It's a time of healing, time to accept that beingness, to recognize what we are, a soul with a spark of godliness. That transcends all the other things. Our beingness is sufficient. Our parents gave us unconditional love. They continue to give us unconditional love. And we aspire to give that to our own children, our own grandchildren. And the one message of unconditional love is very simple. You are enough. And the message of Yom Kippur also, in our relationship with God, which mirrors that of the parent, is we are enough. We are whole. Look at our being, not at what we're doing. When we get to the core of that, we can truly return and we can truly grow. May we all connect with our dear parents, be they in our midst or in the next world. May we all internalize the message of unconditional love and of acceptance of who we are, of our being, not worry about just our accomplishments and our doing. May we all grow. May we all be inspired and inscribed and sealed in the book of life. A good year ahead, one that brings nachas, ruach, brings pride and joy to our parents, whether they are with us or not. And our own children bring us nachas as well. Gemar Chatima Tova. I wish you a very good Yom Kippur. We'll now continue shortly with the actual Yizkor prayers.